Welcome back to The Wedding Buzz. It's your host, Sydney, and today we are diving into a topic that every couple faces, family dynamics during planning. I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Julien, founder of Stormbreaker Conflict Coaching. She holds a PhD in conflict management studies, and she specializes in helping couples navigate the stress, emotions, and complicated relationships that pop up on the way to I do. So Dr. K, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Sydney. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad you made the drive down. How long did it take you?
Couple hours.
A few hours.
Yeah.
That's so sweet that you want us to come join in studio. I really appreciate that. It's always fun to be in person with people.
Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you so much for coming. So tell us something unique about you that others may not know.
Sure. I love to tell people that I'm a rower.
A rower?
That I do crew. I discovered rowing as an adult, although in rowing we say rowing discovers you, and got hooked and still am rowing and still having a great time with it and racing, and it's just
That's
been
so
a great,
fun.
great thing to do. Yeah.
That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something I wasn't expecting. Can you share part of your journey that led you to create Stormbreaker Conflict Coaching?
Sure. When I decided to go back to school to work on my PhD, I thought about my life and said, gee, I could study anything I want. And I've always been a peacemaker since I was little. And peace has always been a great value to me in my family, my relationships, in the world, in life. And so it was a very natural choice to say, I think I'm going to study conflict resolution and communication. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And when I got into my studies and my training and all my research, I discovered a life-altering fact, and that was that conflict isn't really the fire-breathing dragon that brings chaos into our life all the time. It's really something quite predictable with themes, with ideas on how to work with it and overcome it and nullify it. Mm-hmm. You just have to know stuff. Most people don't. We just grow up just trying to get through it in our lives, and we don't realize there's anything more to know unless you go to school like I did. And so I just thought, gee, people should know this. They don't have to live with what conflict can do to their relationships and their lives when conflict's in control. Mm-hmm. And I just thought I need to let people know this, because out of my compassion, to say that would help them to not have to live like that and have more peace in their life and in their relationships. My kids said one time, we always know when mom's learning something because then she turns around and teaches it to us. Mm-hmm. And that's it in a nutshell. Yeah. It's like, people need to know this. I need to teach it to them.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. What were you doing before you decided to go study your PhD in conflict? What was your career before that?
Actually, it was motherhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And it was when my children were older and we could see that, motherhood was going to shift, that I said, I think this is what I'm going to do.
Very nice.
But as always, sorry.
No, that's okay. So had you gone to school, I'm assuming you had a bachelor's before?
Oh, yes. I had a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in education and counseling. So
very nice. And then you took a break to focus on your babies.
Yes.
And now you got into this. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you, had your career focused on motherhood, and then you're like, that chapter's closed. Not closed. You're always a mom.
Yeah.
But it's you took a break to focus on your babies, and then now you're starting something new. And I love that because I feel like I have a lot of friends that are like having kids and they're deciding, do I keep working? Do I be a stay-home mom? Like, did I go to school for nothing? And it's like, I love that it's, you can look back and be like, it was a break. It was, that chapter
A different
of
career.
a different career for, those 20 years or however long it was. And then now you're on to the next career.
Yes, yes.
I love that. I feel like that's encouraging.
Yes, yes. And it's important to remember, and all mothers know this, that you have to wear so many hats and do so many things as a mom that when you decide you do want to pick a career afterwards, you're pretty much prepared for anything. You just have to do the book learning. But as far as life experience, you kind of already know how to do it.
Yeah, you could. That's the perfect launching pad. You could go do anything after raising babies.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Yes.
Well, I know that you focus a lot on people getting married and the conflicts that come up. And one of the big things there is family dynamics, because you're not just marrying the person, you have a whole family that comes along with it. So weddings stir up so many emotions: joy, nostalgia, grief, tension. What are some common stressors that couples don't see coming?
I think the number one stressor that they don't see coming is what it's going to do to their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Up to that point, the couple has figured out their rhythms, know how to talk to each other, know what they like and what they don't like, maybe can read their minds. They're very close and they're very in tune. But planning a wedding and doing a wedding and getting married changes every relationship that we have, every single relationship. And so the couple starts getting into the planning and they start arguing about things they never argued about before, or they misread each other, or they're just thrown off completely. And they kind of go, wait a minute, what's wrong? What's wrong? Or their fiance gets around their family. And when we get around our family, we revert to family roles. And the fiance starts behaving in ways that their partner never really saw them behave that way. And they're just like, who are you? And so when those things happen, because the couple they've been so in sync before, they don't realize that's going to happen. And then they think something's wrong. And if they can understand that, hey, we have never done this before. We've never been in this situation. We've never had this much family, this much stress, this many details to work through together before. If they know that ahead of time, then they don't have to panic, right? That, oh, okay, this is one of those wedding things. And all it means is they have to find another way to talk about it, or for sure, at least acknowledge they can't read each other's minds anymore when it comes to this. And so that really blindsides them. They're just not expecting that. And similarly, the whole idea of what I just said about how it changes every single relationship. I had a bride say, my mom and I have always been so close, and now we seem just to be at odds all the time with the wedding stuff. And nobody expects that. You feel like you know what you're doing, going into it with your relationships. You know how you've worked with everybody. And so it just throws everyone completely off, because then all of a sudden the solid ground is gone. and they panic or they think something's wrong, when if they can know that ahead, like, no, this is what happens. It's okay. You just have to do things a little differently than you have been before. You can't rely on those old ways of communicating. And when we don't know that, what we tend to do is just push harder. And so it's very helpful if you kind of know that ahead of time.
No, it's so true. I had a bride just this week who I feel like half of our planning, like wedding planning meeting, was almost like a therapy session. She was joking. She's like, "You're my therapist now too," which I am not, but I try my best. But just the families having a whole like war over like the seating chart, and it's crazy. I'm like, you got to figure this out, because in a few weeks or a month, whatever, the seating chart's not what matters. It's this marriage. And, your in-laws are going to be your family, and you're like, these are long-term things that like, maybe let's not let a seating chart, cause a war.
Yes.
But it's hard. It's hard. I don't say that with judgment towards people, because weddings stir up a lot of emotions, and everyone has their opinions, and it's really hard to navigate all of that. But how could couples use wedding planning as an opportunity to strengthen relationships?
I'm going to teach for a moment here. As I said, every single relationship is affected. Every single one. That you just have to know that going into it. Things are different. Old ways of doing things aren't necessarily going to work. Some will, but not all the time. But one thing that is absolutely foundational, that will never change in every single relationship, is that we are wired to be in relationship in a certain way. We're just wired that way psychologically to do this. There are two things that have to be in balance when we're in a relationship. We need to feel autonomous. We need to feel like we're our own person, thinking our own thoughts, making our own choices. Even when we're in that relationship, we need to feel like us. And the second thing is, we need to feel a connection to the other person in the relationship. Not necessarily intimate or romantic. It just could be very respectful and acknowledging their expertise. So there just has to be some kind of connection. So when we're in a relationship with someone and those two things are in balance, those two things are happening, we can figure anything out. And I'm sure you've felt this way in your relationships. You can figure out, you can problem solve easily, because you're thinking your thoughts, they're listening to you, you're listening to them, it's going well. And so what happens in conflict is that one or both of those things gets out of whack. Either we are starting to feel like, oh no, I don't have any choice here. I don't have any power. They're just going to do it their way. They're not going to listen to me. You either that's happening, or that connection with the other person is broken. Whether we're feeling like they don't care about me anymore, or they're just looking after themselves, or vice versa, the other person feeling that way. And if we just let that continue to happen, that's what escalates the conflict. Because then I'm fighting for power. I don't care about you. You don't care about me. And we just kind of keep going. So the thing to remember, now I'm going to answer your question. The thing to remember when everyone's in this wedding situation, and when the couple are trying to deal with the changes in the relationships, is that is what's going on. And so in every one of their relationships, if they can look at it as you say, not something to stress them, but something to teach them, to show them, to learn, and to show them the new way to communicate, even to think like, even to have the self-awareness of, yeah, now I'm feeling overpowered and I'm starting to fight. Okay, I don't need to do that. I'll just talk now some more about this. Or if they're aware that the other person seems like they're getting really upset, they can remember, okay, they're starting to feel like they don't matter to me. So, okay, I'm going to stop now, and I'm just going to say, well, how are you looking at this? Or whatever they can think of, or whatever they practice or learn to do, or whatever is a natural way for them to hit those two things, that will develop the relationship in new ways of compassion, new ways of leveling up for themselves, for their own power and strength and confidence, and the leveling up in that relationship that's changing because of this marriage.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How about how can couples set boundaries without creating conflict?
Well, the short answer is with grace, kindness, compassion, being firm, yet smile. That's the short answer, of course. The thing that's important to note is that it's not really true. There isn't really a way to set boundaries and avoid conflict, because the other people involved have their reaction.
Yeah.
So the main thing is for the couple to be very clear, and you've alluded to this before yourself, about being very clear about what you expect, what you want, where that boundary is to discuss with them, and maybe humor, being lighthearted, but still firm. This is the boundary. But not to expect that the other person won't react, because especially maybe you've never set a boundary with that person before, and they're like, all of a sudden you're telling me I'm not good enough, you don't want me around. They interpret it in all kinds of ways. And so the best thing is to like I said, be very clear, know what you want, say it with grace, give information. You be 100% good at your part. And then if they react or something like that, like I said, all right, there's something to explore here. Maybe you say something like, what is it about this that's bothering you? Maybe I could explain it to you more. But when it comes to your boundaries, they are 100% yours. So you don't have to defend them. You don't have to justify them. You don't have to explain them any more than you want to. Oftentimes, out of compassion, you try to explain a little to people what you're thinking. But as far as like sort of getting into a back and forth with the person, that's not necessary. Your boundary is your boundary. So there are a couple things about that, though. A lot of times we set boundaries. We think we've thought of everything, but then we get into whatever's going on, and somebody crosses a boundary we didn't realize we had. And so that's okay. It's unrealistic to think we're going to think of everything, especially during wedding planning, just with the millions of details. So that's okay to come back to somebody and say, I didn't think this mattered to me, but apparently it does. So how about it? We do whatever, So that just, don't be taken back if all of a sudden there's another boundary that you hadn't talked about. It's okay. You don't have to know the whole thing all at once. The other thing to remember is that the couple, or you, whoever I'm talking to at the moment, they are not the only people with boundaries.
Mhm.
Everybody else there is going to have boundaries, whether they know it or not, whether they know anything about boundary. Most people don't, and they're going to have their own boundaries, and so it's very important when we want people to respect ours to have the situational awareness if somebody else has drawn a boundary with us to pay attention to that.
Mhm.
It's very easy to just kind of be thinking about ourselves, and we want somebody to respect ours, and to forget that it's our job to do that,
Mhm.
to respect somebody else's. So it's when it comes to those things, and we're working with all the relationship dynamics during wedding planning, that helps too. That
Yeah.
helps too.
No, I mean, it makes total sense. And I mean, during wedding planning, you're right. Like, there's not only boundaries between you and your soon to be like spouse. There's, I mean, boundaries and conflict that will come up between the two of you, but you're adding a whole family, and you're going to have your parents' expectations of the whole wedding day and expectations of what marriage looks like and different religions, and are we getting married in a church, are we getting married outside, are we getting married inside, and everyone has their different
Yeah.
opinions. And I was even thinking, as you're talking about boundaries, something that I see couples get upset a lot about with different vendors is like rules, like the rules of the venue. And there's different, like, that's another, in a way, that's like the venue's boundary.
Exactly.
And I see it
Yes.
cause conflict. Why can't
Yes.
we do that? We should be allowed to do that. I'm like, well, the venue won't let you do that. And it was in your contract. So
Yes.
you signed that contract. Like, you said yes to that boundary, but now you're upset that there's a boundary, but
Yes.
it's there,
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes I
Yeah.
don't agree with all the venue rules.
Yeah.
I don't like their boundary, but that's their boundary.
Exactly.
And we have
Yeah.
to respect it. And
Yeah.
but the wedding planning process definitely brings up a lot
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
areas of conflict between, the
Yeah.
couple, their family, the vendors, the venue.
Yes.
And so it's very important that they focus on how to resolve conflict and how do you handle it well. And I mean, I have some couples that do a great job of this, and I see it, and they speak nicely to each other. And I have some couples that when I leave a meeting, I'm like,
Yes.
like, I didn't like
Exactly.
how he
Yes.
said that to her. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I've had
Yes.
brides read me text messages
Yes.
from like their future in-laws and stuff
Aw.
that are horrible. And I'm like, oh no, like, this
Yeah.
is not how I'm like, wait, people, wait. Like,
Yes. Yes.
forget the flowers and the decor and all of this. Like, you're starting a marriage, like, you're combining families. We need to make that a priority and figure out how to not let conflict result in name calling and nasty conversations. Like,
Yeah.
we need to figure out how to, if anything, bring it closer. Do you have an
Yeah.
example of how like a difficult conversation actually has brought family closer?
Yes.
I know I probably hit you on the spot with that
No,
one.
no. I do. I was just thinking it might be as big and dramatic example as maybe you're hoping, but
That's okay.
so there's this one couple. They had a day of coordination, a day of
Coordinator.
Day of coordinator, but they didn't have the planner, from the beginning, and so the bride was just trying to do everything herself. She was trying to make all the decisions. I mean, worked with her groom, but I mean, all the responsibilities of things were she was just trying to do everything herself, and other people would try to offer do something. No, she just felt like she wanted to do it all herself. So she consequently, she was irritable and short, and she wasn't a bridezilla. It wasn't that, but it was taking a toll on her.
Yeah, I've said on here before, like, because people ask me all the time if I deal with bridezillas, and I'm like, I don't love the term because there is so much pressure on the
Yes,
brides. Everyone's
exactly.
telling her what she should do, what she shouldn't do, blah, blah, blah. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What are
Yeah.
you wearing? How much money are you spending? Like, and then it's like the day of, anything that goes wrong with the wedding or anything that someone doesn't like, well, why'd she pick that? Why'd she do that? It's like,
Yes.
so
Yes.
anyways, not sorry to
Yes.
interrupt you,
No,
but
no, good.
there's
I agree.
so much
I
stress
agree.
on the brides, and it's not an excuse for them to be nasty or irritable or whatever, but like, I don't think people realize how much stress does fall on the bride.
Yes. Oh, for sure. For sure. And really, Sydney, actually, this sort of applies to all of our relationships. It's very important for us to remember that we are not clones of each other, right? We have a totally different brain, totally different life experience, totally different perspective. There's no way that I can really know what you mean, what you feel, what's going on with you, or vice versa. There's no way that can happen.
Right.
And so when those things happen, just to your point, if you have never been a bride before, and you have never been, close to a bride before, or you have no clue what she's feeling, what she's dealing with, what's going on. And our first reaction, as you described, is to say, what's wrong with her? But the truth is, our first reaction has to be sort of compassionate and go and acknowledge, like, I don't even know. I don't even know what's happening to her.
Yeah.
I don't even know what she's
I feel
experiencing.
like that applies in life in general.
Exactly.
Like,
every relationship. Yeah.
you never know what someone's going through.
That's exactly
And
right. That's exactly right.
Again, it's not an excuse for bad behavior, but you just never know. You never know what people are truly going through under the surface. And I would take a bet that if we truly knew what other people were going through, that everyone would be a lot more empathetic and more compassionate, and we would be able to see them from a different lens.
Yes.
Yes. Years ago, I spoke to this therapist, and the gist of, like, what she was telling me and stuff is that people are basically like children in adult bodies. And it helped me view some bad behavior in people in my life. Not that it's an excuse for bad behavior, but if you like strip it down and you see them as like a 6-year-old in a grown man's body, and it's like that 6-year-old who is longing for attention and feeling, left out or whatever, and you just can see them for who they really are. Again, it doesn't mean that you have to accept bad behavior, but it just has been like, since I spoke to this therapist like years ago, it like has stuck with me. And like when I see people like acting out or lashing out, I'm like, who hurt you? Like what's on the inside? Like what little kid inside you is like dying for attention or validation, or like there's always so much under the surface. And so I just see that with brides too. And it's like they're trying to put on this happy face and this beautiful wedding, and it should be, but they're kind of getting attacked by a lot of people often, and then blamed if she has a bad day and happens to have an attitude or something. Then it's like, oh, how dare she?
Well, and what you just described, your thought process that you just described for you, that what that does is it should inform how we respond to that person. If we care about them, if we truly care about them, and if that connection's broken, how can I take a step toward that person? Because I don't know what's going on. It could be, like you say, they're feeling left out or whatever. So how can this information help me be a better friend to her, mother to her, spouse to her, to inform what we do then next if we really care about them. So anyway, getting back to my example.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's all right. So that's what was happening. She was just stressed. She was just like that. And so a few of the people close to her, like her mom and her fiance and her maid of honor, just a few people that she trusted. They all got together with her. They didn't do like an intervention, like a true intervention, where people just show up all of a sudden, what's going on. But they all, took her out to lunch and said, we want to talk to you. They weren't combative. They just go, you are nuts.
Yeah.
They said, we want to talk to you because we don't think this isn't being a happy wedding planning for you.
Yeah.
And you really do have to let us do things. You really have to delegate. And of course it was very hard for her because she had her vision. She had what she wanted to do. And, there's always that little thing of, they can't do it like I do it. It's hard. But they just kept talking to her. They just gave her feedback, lovingly. We can see you're just way too stressed and you're not sleeping, or, they just talked with her. Each of them had something. It really helped her groom because he felt like he wasn't the only one that was, seeing that. And so they had a really good conversation with her, and they talked about, they had a few more conversations of, all right, what matters to you, what doesn't, what can we do, and delegate. And they figured out, they just took all the jobs, all the things. Her maid of honor did stuff, her groom did stuff, her the mom and groom did things,
I had a sister on a wedding planning call last night.
Yeah.
The bride was like, I need to call can my sister join? I was like, sure. And I gave tasks to the sister. I was like, all right, that's on you. You're handling this.
Yes. And so how that made things better, not only, for the bride herself, of course, obviously it was just great for her to stop, and everyone was very sensitive to, what do you want to have a say? How do you want it? Everybody checked back with her. There was no blind siding to her, about anything that was going on. Everybody worked for her and with her. But what also came out of it that was pretty cool was like her mom and her groom, they really had never worked together one-on-one before. It was always like the three of them or something, or they'd come to visit. It was always, and so it was a whole new, unique experience for those two to get to know each other and see what they were like. And because so many times, like you say, when the families haven't been together, people don't know each other. There are all these people involved in this wedding that don't really know each other. And you kind of forget that maybe that's that way with the bride and groom also, that there are people that don't know them and they don't know. And that's just kind of the status quo all through the wedding. So this was really great that it was a whole new fueling for their relationship and a whole new way to understand each other. And the same with the maid of honor. Oftentimes, say your maid of honor is someone from high school or college or something, and they fly in to do it, and really your groom might not know her, or know her very well. And so when they had to work together, like we just all, we just all saw that it was a great thing because it made connections that really hadn't been there before.
Yeah. No, that's so nice. It's so nice. And I mean, I think that when there's conflict, it can, in these situations, it can, if people act correctly, it can really bring everyone together, or it can tear everyone apart. So hopefully we're bringing everyone together. How can couples create a united front so that they're making decisions as a team?
Well, I'm sure you probably have observed this far more than I have. But the best thing is for them to talk to each other, right?
I know it's funny because it's like conflict is so complicated, but the solution is like
it's
almost simple. Like,
well, and
communicate.
as I said earlier, it's not really complicated.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's not complicated at all. It's those two things that I told you. They're not in balance, and you got to attend to them. Really, but it oftentimes, as you know, the couple, there's so much going on, and and as I said, they kind of fall into that trap of, I already know what they're thinking,
Mhm.
and so things come up that they aren't on the same page. And so the most important thing, and I'm sure they hear it over and over, is for them to talk to each other, to be in touch, what's going on, whether it works for them to sort of have a regular time to do it, or they just say, let's be sure Saturday mornings, we go out for coffee and talk, whatever it is, not on the run, to check in. And this has come up. Does this matter to you? Does it not matter to you? Okay, are we in agreement that this is how it should be? And when they're on the same page, then when it's presented to someone, then there's that united front.
Yeah.
They have to do the united front beforehand.
That's, I think, I hear some couples say like, oh, well, like once we're married, we'll do this, or like after the wedding, we'll do this. And it's important. I'm like, it's not going to be, or even just like some friends of mine that are like planning to get married and, there's some major issues. And it's like, well, we'll just like figure it out after the wedding. And I'm like, that's probably not the best idea.
No. No.
Yeah. So what are some tools or phrases that help couples express themselves more clearly? Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I was about to say. Okay. Well, I knew, I was like, there was something I was going to say. And then I forgot. But it was when you were talking about like, oh, let's go grab coffee and talk about it. My pastor had told me that something really important to do is to have date nights and have business meetings and make sure that those are like separate, but that they both happen. And I really liked that advice. And I thought that would be, helpful in a relationship. And I've told my couples, not that I'm a therapist, I'm a wedding planner, but I've told them, because a lot of them confide in me and stuff. And I'm like, have those separate meetings, have a business meeting once a week where you talk about your taxes and your bills and your all that stuff. And then make sure that you also have date nights, that you have fun together. And I think that both of those are so important.
Yeah. But that's where the communication comes in. Communication on the run isn't really good communication,
or over
right?
text.
Yeah. Oh, text. Oh, yeah. Let's not even go there. How bad text can blow things up. That's not communication between the couple. It's stopping. It's stopping, leaving the world outside, stopping, only being with each other, present to each other, and truly asking, what's going on? How are you feeling? What matters? Has something happened this week that you didn't expect that we need to take care of? That's the only way that gets done. So whether it is they're talking about business or the wedding, or whether it is they're trying to do the date night, those are the times that communication happens.
Yeah.
And the trouble is we always hear this. We just don't make time for that. And then we kind of wonder why did this go wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't in our outline, but do you have suggestions for if there's one person in the couple that's trying to do this and the other person isn't responding, isn't wanting to do it? Do you ever find that with your couples, that there's one that's like, I want to talk, I want to have good conflict resolution, and the other one's, because it takes two? I know I hit you with that one.
Well, that's okay. So what's the question? What to do about that?
I guess like what do you suggest for people who, if you had a bride come to you and say like, hey, I'm trying to talk to him and he doesn't want to sit down and have these conversations. He doesn't want to sit down and talk it out. He wants to ignore it. What do you suggest how to have conflict resolution? Because you can try to talk about it all day long, but if the other person doesn't want to also talk about it,
yes,
you get stuck.
Yeah. Well, the short answer is I'd say, sounds like you need counseling. You two need to go for counseling because that's not going to work in a marriage in any way, shape, or form. So you better think about this and take care of that.
Yeah, that's true.
But because that would be a huge red flag, right, for their life.
Yeah.
If they're not on the same page. Now,
maybe it was a pretty obvious answer to my question, but as you're talking about this whole time of like conflict and communication and I'm just thinking because I love talking and communicating, but it's not always reciprocated, and it's like.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Here's my real answer. I mean, that is I would note, and probably like as you probably have, if when you see things in the couple, and you can kind of tell they're going to bring that into their marriage, and that's not going to be the greatest. I mean, you that is something that happens, but there's a lot that we can do on our own. Obviously, everybody knows this. We can't control another person. We can't make them do what we want them to do. We can't. We just can't. And it is very disappointing when the other person doesn't reciprocate. Mm-hmm. Now, and I'm not talking about just one person in the couple's outgoing and the other person is would rather just be in the cave together. I'm not talking about that kind of thing, but something that is essential like that. We have to figure out how we're going to deal with disagreements with us and how we're going to handle them. So it's very disappointing when the other person isn't doing anything, and we realize we can't make them. So that is very difficult. The good news is that we have 100% jurisdiction over us. And when we change how we do things, we write a whole new story. It's not dependent on that other person. So the first step is to kind of learn how to change us. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean like, I'm not at all implying like we have to give up the things that we want, but it's like, okay, this is what I've got to work with. Mm-hmm. So how do I want to do this? Like you said, we learn some skills, we learn some strategies, we learn what we want, how we want to have things go, what we need, what we don't need. Okay, I'm not going to get this to do this, so I have to think of a new strategy or a new way to do it. Like we have so much jurisdiction and influence over what happens. We forget that because we are so thinking so much about them and maybe them being an obstacle to us or not cooperating, but we don't have to spend time there. We can turn around and say, all right, who am I? How do I want to do this? What matters? What's another route here? How do I want to talk about it? When we start to get into that thinking of how do I make him do this, then that's got to trigger us to say, okay, wait, no, I'm over. It's kind of like when we talked about boundaries, there's this line between us where we stop and they begin, and vice versa, where they stop and we begin. And so a lot of times when we're thinking that thought, like, how can I get him to do this? We're reaching over that line, right? We're sort of, we almost feel like we're reaching over, right? And so it's a good, okay, wait a minute. Hey, I'm on his side of the line. So, all right, let me get back to me. And hey, I've got a lot of influence here, a lot of power, a lot of ways to affect the situation. And so I'm going to find out how to do that
Mm-hmm.
and make that happen in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even with fighting, somebody doesn't want to talk about it, but that it takes two to fight. So if they're fighting and they're not willing to do it the way you think is really good to help, you just stop fighting, or you just kind of have that be your decision. I'm not going to argue about this. I'm not going to fight about this. Mm-hmm. We can talk about it when you calm down or whatever.
Yeah, no, I guess the key here is like, if as you're leading up to your wedding, if you cannot do conflict resolution.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. If you can't do conflict resolution, then maybe you have some bigger problems. If it's just not happening.
Yeah, I guess if the person really doesn't want to resolve things, you do have to kind of ask the question, why don't they want to resolve things?
Yeah. And where is this going to end up?
Yes.
If you can give one piece of advice to couples listening who are already dealing with difficult situations leading up to their wedding, maybe it's family dynamics or just the couple making decisions leading up to the wedding, what would, one big piece of advice be?
Yeah. Well, probably what I just said. No matter how it's been going, you have so much influence when you work with you. That is kind of, again, going back to what I presented about that strength and compassion, that autonomy and connection. Every single relationship is based on that. And so no matter what's happened so far, you can start today to do something different. You don't have to be stuck in that. You can change how you are going to respond, how you are going to be. You can make room for the other people and not have to get all tangled up in what they are or are not doing, because you have all that in you to be able to change. But tagline that I have is change you, change the story. That is absolutely the truth. And so if you can remember that about, okay, either I'm feeling like I have no power here, or maybe they're not, or they're feeling that way, or they're feeling disconnected, then okay, this is what I need to do here. I need to take a step toward them. I need to ask. You kind of asked before about in communicating, what is it that matters to you here? What is specifically on your mind? That's just the best thing for you to talk specifically, for them to talk specifically. Oftentimes by the point of conflict, it's the kitchen sink, right? Everybody's just throwing everything into saying what they want to say. And so if you can stop and say, okay, what exactly is it that is bothering you or that you need? And then kind of similar to what I said about the difference in the partners, then you can decide, okay, how do I want to do this? As family dynamics, for example, and really just all the relationships that are being changed now, they sort of have their river flowing, right? They've had their river flowing up to this point, and now there's a dam that's getting built and redirecting the river and just, wreaking havoc. And so if they can keep in mind, like, this is what's happening, but I am not powerless here.
Mm-hmm.
I can do a lot. I can influence a lot just by cultivating in me the compassion, the kindness, like you say, the humor, and the clarity in my own mind about where things are. Those are the things that take the hit. We just get confused, right? We can't remember. We're trying to play whack-a-mole, right? With the things that people are throwing at us. You mentioned expectations. I mean, talk about something that blindsides the couple. They have no clue how many expectations are going to come out of the woodwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have no clue. And that is like, wow. So to just be able to say, it's okay. There is a way to deal with this chaos, and I can do it really well and make things happen by doing it this way.
Mm-hmm.
They can influence it.
Yeah, no, it makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
Do you have, if you could just give like one simple communication habit, or maybe it's kind of what you already said, but is there one like habit or one phrase or something that that you would suggest?
Yeah, I think as you say, I kind of probably hit on them. I think one of the most important phrases, and again, uh, always our fight or flight gets triggered, and if we can stop ourselves from the fighting or the flight, and just stay there calmly and stay in the game. Those kinds of questions that help restore the connection helps a lot, because that is what's broken there in the relationship. And as you've already said, those relationships are going to continue past the wedding.
Yeah.
And so if there's a way to say, okay, tell me how you're looking at this. Tell me, what is it specifically that's bothering you? What am I not seeing here? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
Yeah.
That is one of the best things, because oftentimes, as you know, when we're sort of in that cycle, a lot of times we're thinking two different things, and we're arguing about two different things, right? And then somehow somebody says something, and the other person goes, "Oh, I thought you were mad about this," and it's
Yep.
it's not. So if we can think to start with that.
Yeah.
Essentially, what's going on here? What are we talking about? What is happening? I mean, a lot of times, like I say, we want to say, who are you?
We assume what the other person's thinking and we dig in. But if you take a minute to actually try to understand where they're coming from, it's like, oh, okay, well, I was looking at it differently than you, and that's why we're not on the same page.
Right.
So it's important to like, I feel like in all of this, it's important to like you said, don't fight, don't flight, like stay in the game, stay neutral, stay calm, try to understand, try to stay open.
Yeah.
And it makes a world of a difference.
Yes. And the specificity, again, like when you're asking those questions, what are you seeing? How are you seeing this? What's going on? The more you can drill down and say, what exactly is bothering you here? Because at that point, a lot of times we are just, it is the kitchen sink. And sometimes people have to stop and say, what is bothering me?
Yeah. Like what is, I mean, it's kind
what
of.
What are we talking about?
Like a little like what I was saying before of like, if people are really like a 6-year-old having a temper tantrum, it's like, wait, what is actually the issue here? Because is it, whatever they're freaking out about right now and yelling about? Or is it, if you peel back the onion, like, oh, wait, they're just feeling left out or they're feeling insecure or they're feeling this or that. And it's like, if you stop and dig deeper, it's like, what's really causing this? And maybe we can fix the root issue here and understand the root issue. And it will help
Yes,
go a
yes.
long way. It'll go a long
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. It is like, say you drill down, and the person is saying, well, we've just always been so close, and I feel on the outside. This is your wedding, and I feel on the outside. And then, the light bulb goes on, as I said. Oh, okay. Well, I can bring you in, I can think of a way to bring you in.
Mhm.
I don't, but all the bride's getting is this person sort of, arguing with them or something. And
Yeah.
who gets that? It's like money fights aren't about money. It's about
Exactly.
all the things underneath,
Exactly.
So
It's
yeah,
I mean, I've experienced
So
a
if you
lot of
can,
this in my own life, and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
the finances weren't the problem. It was, the attitude, the
yeah,
lack of, you know, of agreement on it, the lack of communication. It's all of those things.
yeah,
It's not actually about the flowers at the wedding.
yes,
It's not
yeah,
actually about the seating chart. There's root
yes,
issues here, and if we
yes,
can all
yes,
take a breath
yes,
and
yeah,
try to understand each other,
yeah.
it goes a long way.
Yeah, yeah. If we can get to that root issue, then we know what the remedy can be. But
Right.
as long as it's just a mess, like I said, whack-a-mole, you know,
It'll stay
or
chaotic and
yeah,
messy.
yeah.
Well, it was so fun having you on. I really
Thanks,
enjoyed this
Sydney.
conversation.
Thanks.
If listeners want to find you, where can they reach out? I know you have your website,
Yes, stormbreakerconflictcoaching.com.
.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know you have your Instagram, Dr. KSBCC on
Yes,
Instagram.
yes.
And then you mentioned to me before we hopped on about a free guide. Do you want to talk about that really quickly about your 12 tips? What is that guide?
Sure. It's basically just 12 quick tips for communication. Just
Okay.
different scenarios and different things that give you some action items to just grab onto when you want to do something, and really just do immediately if you recognize yourself or in the situation. They're not big in depth like counseling things, but
Yeah.
they're just like coaching things.
Like a workbook, yeah.
Yeah, just coaching ideas for you to be able to think in a new way about
Yeah.
some of the things going on. It's called Disaster Preparedness 101, Relationship Hurricanes. And that comes from our living in Central Florida. We know that when we have the hurricanes, there's a whole lot we can do to prepare for them, to minimize the damage.
Yes.
And with conflict, the like I said, it's very predictable, especially when there's a lot of change. Change is the number one predictor of conflict, whether it's good change or bad, doesn't matter. So even though hurricanes turn at the last minute sometimes, and we're still kind of stuck running around, the bulk of it we've prepared for, and we have an idea of how to maneuver. So these are just 12 quick tips on here's some things to prepare.
Well, that sounds very helpful. I'm sure everyone should do that. So I know that I saw that at the bottom of your website, but I know that you told me if someone emails, it'll automatically send it. So the email was offer12w@stormbreakerconflictcoaching.com. So that was offer12w@stormbreakerconflictcoaching.com. And you will automatically get that free guide, or go to the bottom of her website and you will find that as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
This was so fun.
It's great, Cindy. Fun for me too.
Good.
Thanks.
I'm so glad that you made the trip.
Yes, thanks.